Welcome to Chronicles by Candlelight. Subscribing helps the channel grow and lets you stay updated with every new video, so you never miss the content you enjoy. You are listening to Fracture. Episode 10, The 1%. For a moment, the arena just held its breath, like the heavy pause between lightning and thunder. Then, it erupted. A wave of shouting, clapping, and disbelief rolled through the Myrmidon. Everyone was on their feet yelling Zack Champion's name. What had we all just witnessed? It felt like a million years since Luca had his console out. He was hunched over, still reeling over the fight. "Did you see that?" he asked. Jasper's grin was stretched so wide I thought it might rip at the sides. "Rank 2, he said under his breath. "That's what rank 2 looks like." Mia expressed what we all thought. "That wasn't even a close battle," she said. "He dismantled him." Down below, the medical team rushed onto the arena and surrounded Peter Law where he had landed at the far end of the ring. Zack Champion simply stood there for a second, blindfold still in place, then turned and walked off, as if nothing extraordinary had just happened. "That guy's a problem," Luca muttered. I completely agreed, although my reasoning was due to the fact my mind kept replaying the distortion and aura I had seen. I didn't say anything to the others about it. The announcer's voice cut through the noise. "That concludes the final match of the evening." A wave of groans came from the crowd. "Students are advised to return to their dormitories. Tomorrow marks the beginning of your official schedules." The crowd slowly began to disperse as people talked over each other, breaking down the fight, arguing, hyping it up even more. Jasper stretched his arms over his head. "I can't wait for a proper fight," he said. "Neither can I," Mia muttered. "I just hope my first match isn't boring," Luca said. I walked with them, hands in my pockets. I was excited. Of course I was. Anyone would be after watching something like that. I also felt a nagging awareness of the gap between the others and I. I was still trying to understand what I had just seen, while they discussed things they could carry over into their own fighting style. We moved with the flow of students toward the exit, the noise gradually thinning as we left the arena. And then behind me, I heard someone call my name. The voice was familiar. I turned to see it was the same staff member from earlier. He was staring impatiently at me. "Come with me," he said. Before I did, Jasper walked over and asked to exchange contacts. The exchange was timely, after which I turned my attention to the man who led me back toward the arena. He introduced himself as Charles Wagner, assistant to Slade Baldwin. And as we re-entered the Myrmidon Hall, I had this gut feeling seeing the faint outlines of a silhouette standing near the center. Slade Baldwin. "Sir," Charles said. Slade turned his head slightly towards me. "So," he said calmly, "this is the one." My chest tightened. He faced me fully now. "You," he continued, voice steady, "are the student who suggested the Institute made a mistake." "I didn't mean it like that," I said quickly. He raised a hand. "What did you think of the fights?" he asked. I hesitated. "They're monsters." A faint smile tugged at his lips. "Did anyone stand out to you?" I didn't need to think. "Zack Champion did, sir." "Of course," Slade said. "And can you tell me his ability?" I opened my mouth, then closed it. "No." His smile widened slightly. "Expected." He turned his head. "Zack!" he called. From the corner of my eye, I saw a figure step onto the arena floor. Zack Champion still had his blindfold on, as he stepped into the center of the ring and stopped. I had a bad feeling about this. What did wanting to leave the combat department have to do with Zack Champion? "For you," Slade said, turning back to me, "I have a simple offer." My stomach tightened. "Option 1, he continued. "You walk out that door." He gestured behind me. "And we transfer you out of the combat department. You go where you originally intended. No more problems." That sounded perfect. "Option 2, he went on with his voice lowering just slightly. "I tell you Zack Champion's ability, and you get the opportunity to face him." Slade Baldwin looked at me with enough intensity to crack a window. Why would anyone pick the second option? Of course I would leave. Of course I would take the safe option. Of course. I tried to step back, to turn and walk out the door that stood wide open, but my body didn't move. It was like my feet had rooted themselves into the ground. Slade Baldwin brandished a one-sided smirk. "You have 20 seconds, he said. "If you're still standing here when the time is up, I'll take that as your answer." My heart started to pound as I exchanged glances between the menacing silhouette that was Zack Champion and the open door. It was a choice between crossing an ocean or a puddle. 19. Slade Baldwin's countdown had begun. 18, 17. All I had to do was move. Just one step, then the next. I persuaded my legs. But no reaction. 16, 15. I tried again, forcing my leg to shift, to turn, to do anything. 14, 13. I glanced at Zack Champion and wondered if he felt even the least bit nervous fighting me. It was a crazy thought, I knew. Still, I had to wonder. 7, 6, 5. I could feel fear pumping through my veins. Not just fear, but excitement, believe it or not. My fingers curled slightly at my sides. It felt like I was at the brink of insanity, containing this feeling, this urge to face such a monster. I had never felt this way in my life. 4, 3, 2, 1. I slowly released a heavy breath that had been trapped in my chest the entire time. I started, then stopped, because I didn't know why I hadn't moved. Slade Baldwin chuckled softly. That, he said, is because you're not built to run. I looked at him. He began to walk slowly, his presence undeniable in the space. You just don't understand it yet. But most people, he continued, when faced with something dangerous, something overwhelming, they retreat. It's instinct, survival. He stopped. But there is a fraction. His voice lowered slightly. A very small fraction who do the opposite. My throat felt dry. They step forward, he said. They walk into the fire. Those people make up the 1%. Slade turned his head slightly. Zack, he said, remove your blindfold. Zack Champion reached up and untied it. My eyes locked onto him as the fabric slipped away, revealing what lay underneath. Slade spoke. Zack Champion's ability is thermal echo. He has the talent to perceive heat signatures with those eyes of his. Zack Champion's pupils burnt bright red like the sun lived there. The moment his eyes were fully visible, something inside my head snapped and pain exploded behind eyes. I dropped instantly as my hands flew to my face. Ah! I screamed. The pain was unbearable, like something was forcing its way into my skull, flooding through my vision and overwhelming every sense I had at once. My sight blurred as fragments of movement, patterns, heat, space bending, collapsing, reforming flashed through my mind. Make it stop, I choked out. My entire skull pulsed, and each beat sent another wave crashing through me as if my brain was trying to process something far beyond what it could handle. Through it, I heard Slade Baldwin's voice. This, he said, is what happens when ocular abilities interact, frequency, alignment, then conflict. My fingers dug into the ground as my breath got caught in my throat. It forces a transfer, he went on, a download of information from the experienced to the inexperienced. My vision flickered again, and thoughts began to slip as the pain peaked. Then everything started to fade. The last thing I heard, your body isn't ready to handle it. Then darkness took me. When I opened my eyes again, it felt like I had been dragged back into the world from a deep, dark part of hell. A pounding headache sat right behind my eyes like something had lodged itself there overnight. I groaned and brought a hand up to my face, pressing my palm against my forehead as if that would somehow dull it. Ugh. I pushed myself up slowly. My body protested every single movement as I sat on the edge of the bed. For a second, I just stayed there, head lowered, and waited for the spinning to stop. Sunlight poured through the window in a harsh, blinding stream, cut across the room like a blade, and aggressively forced its way into my eyes. Ah, shit. I winced hard. It felt like my eyes were being stabbed. I forced myself to stand anyway, one hand still pressed to my temple as I staggered slightly toward the window to close the blinds. As I reached out, my foot caught on something. My balance disappeared instantly, and I hit the floor before I could even react. This sent a fresh wave of pain through my already throbbing head. What the hell was that? I stayed there for a second, face pressed against the cold tile. I pushed myself up onto my elbows, turned my head back toward the bed, and saw a massive lump on the floor, covered completely in a blanket. Slowly, the lump sat up, like a damn mummy rising from the dead. What the hell? I scrambled backward, heart jumping into my throat. The thing screamed too, then we both froze. Then it yanked the blanket down from its head. The recognition was instant. It was Zack Champion. Zack? I stared. He blinked at me, and then frowned slightly, still half asleep. Jeez, he said, voice groggy. You scared me. He rubbed one eye lazily, his expression completely different from the calm, terrifying figure I had seen in the arena. Right now, he just looked normal, goofy even. sat there on the floor, still trying to catch up. "What are you doing in my room?" I asked, my voice somewhere between confused and annoyed. Zack didn't answer immediately. Instead, he stood up, stretched, scratched his ass, and then casually walked away. I watched him, dumbfounded, as he disappeared into the bathroom. A few seconds later, I heard peeing. "Are you serious right now?" I asked. He came back out like nothing had happened, hopped onto the bed, flopped down onto it with a satisfied sigh. Then he looked at me. "You mean my room," he said. I blinked, then I looked around. The layout was wrong. The desk sat at a different angle, the walls weren't the same plain white I remembered, and there were things scattered around that definitely didn't belong to me. "This isn't my room," I muttered. "Nope," Zack said casually. I frowned, pushing myself up from the floor. "How did I even get here?" I asked. Zack sat up on the bed and stretched lazily. "I carried you," he said, like it was nothing. "You carried me?" I stared at him. "Yeah," he nodded. "Why?" I asked. He tilted his head slightly. "What do you remember?" I paused. Then I tried my hardest to think through the pain in my head. "Slade Baldwin," I said slowly. "You took off your blindfold. Then..." My head throbbed again, just thinking about it. "Then nothing." Zack nodded. "Yeah," he said. "We were about to fight." "Fight?" I froze, then looked at him again, suspicion creeping in. "Wait," I said. "Did you bring me here so we could fight?" For a second, he just stared at me. Then he burst out laughing. It was loud, unfiltered, almost childish, like he genuinely found the idea hilarious. He leaned back and clutched his stomach. "No way." He shook his head, still grinning like an idiot. "You're way too weak for that right now." I frowned. "Thanks." There was something about him. Not just his strength or confidence. It was like he moved through the world however he felt like, without restraint or structure. If I had to put a name to it, he reminded me of the trickster monkey god Wukong. Zack flopped back slightly onto the bed, hands behind his head. "I brought you here," he said. "Because... I don't know." He paused and frowned slightly like he was trying to figure it out himself. "Feels like I should keep an eye on you," he added. "Like, protective or something." I blinked. "That's weird," I said honestly. "Yeah," he shrugged. "It is. But you're the only other optical ability user I've met. Well, except for my mentor." He didn't elaborate, he pointed at me. "So what's yours?" he asked. "Your ability." I hesitated for a second. "I can see flaws," I said. "In systems." He tilted his head. "What's it called?" "Fracture," I replied. "That's a sick name." Then under his breath said, "Might need to rename mine." "What's your rank?" I paused. "Do I have to say it?" "Yes." He nodded. 500. I sighed. He whistled. "Damn," he said. "You got work to do." "I'm aware." I rubbed the back of my neck. "Your ability, thermal echo, I mean, I get it, but that doesn't explain what you were doing in the fight." He raised a brow. "What do you mean?" "You were bending space," I said. "Distorting it. Pulling things. Changing trajectories. That's not just an optical ability." Zack held up a finger. "It's not. It's a combination of a high-level control of spiritual energy and two techniques, Wing Chun and Tai Chi." I stared at him. That's it. That was enough to keep up with a legacy power user. Zack Champion didn't seem bothered by his seemingly impossible feat. Instead, he screwed his face and said, "A legacy? Who? Law? He is just an NPC, no real threat." And I couldn't believe what I was even hearing. Zack Champion checked his watch, then stood up. "Come on," he said, "let's go train." Subscribe for new episodes. See you next time.